Hi everyone, good evening. Okay, let's start the today's session. So today we'll discuss about database connections in Python. Especially we'll focus on MySQL server. So how to connect to MySQL databases, how to create tables, how to update the tables, how to get the data out of the tables, etc. So all the different data manipulations. So we'll discuss about that today. Yeah, let's start the today's session. Just a minute, let me share my screen. Okay, hope you are able to see my screen. So what we are going to do is, so there are two methods in which so we can either install MySQL server and MySQL server into local system and do all these operations, whatever I am discussing. So, or what you can do is you can create a trial account in Google Cloud Platform, so which will give you $300 credit for 91 days, and okay, and install MySQL over there. So any which way is fine. I'm just following the GCP way. Okay. So what you need to do is you need to open console.cloud.google.com. Okay. So once you open console.cloud.google.com, so what happens is, okay, you have my project here. So let me open SQL. Okay. So I have already created an instance. If you want to create a new instance, what you need to do is you need to create on create instance, and you can choose either MySQL or PostgreSQL or SQL Server. So then just follow the steps. So instance ID, password, database version. Okay, then once you create instance, you will get instance like this. Okay, it is very simple. So just you need to click on instance and just follow the steps, and that's it. Once you have instance, one important thing what you need to do is you need to click on connections and add a network. Okay. So typically if you see, I have added a network 0.0.0.0/0 so that it will allow all the IPs to this particular server. Okay. Just these two things are required. Then you can simply use that MySQL for okay, doing all the creating the databases, creating the tables, everything. Okay. You can always install MySQL server. Just go to MySQL, I mean search for okay. Download those and just go to okay MySQL server. and you can install, follow the process. Okay, any which way it is fine, but I prefer cloud because it is very easy to maintain, and so you don't need to configure all these things. Okay, so let us start the today's session. Let us discuss about all the important steps which we need to follow while creating a database, while creating a connection. Okay, let us go ahead and start today's discussion. So the first important thing you need to do is, okay, whenever you are working on these MySQL databases, you need to have SQL connector. Okay, let me show you the syntax. First, you need to import SQL connector. First, you need to install the SQL connector as well. As I have already installed it, let me show you the code for installing the SQL connector also. So like I told you, there are two ways to install. Either you can install from Jupyter. So like this, or you can go to command prompt and do pip install. Okay, both of them are absolutely fine. As I have already installed, I just aborted this process. So you need to install MySQL connector Python. So once this is installed, you can simply import it. So I have imported MySQL connector, and I'll import important packages as well. The first thing we need is configuration file. So in configuration file, you need to mention username, password, and the IP address of our SQL MySQL server. Okay, first username. Let me show you the username. See here, the username is root. Okay. There is no clarity in video. So are you facing any issue? Are you not able to see my screen? Everyone? Is there an issue in video? Increase the clarity. So how do I increase the clarity? Either I can increase the size, that's it. Okay. Now is it better? I have increased the size. Yeah. Hope this is clear now, because I have just increased the font size. Okay. Okay. So if you see, the username is root to this particular MySQL server. Okay. Now I need to mention root. I need to mention password. I have created my password as demo, so that's why I'm using that. Then the next important thing is I need to mention the host name. Host name is nothing but IP address. Let me copy paste the IP address from here. Okay, so this is the IP address I need to use. So I have successfully created a config file, which is nothing but a dictionary, right? It has key value pairs. Okay, now I have the config file. So then I need to create a connection. Okay. So I have used a alias name ms for this, right? So I need to use ms dot. Okay. Connect. So can anybody tell me why I am using a double asterisk for this config? If you remember our initial discussions on functions, we discussed about two important things, right? Dynamic positional arguments and dynamic keyword arguments. The moment I mention double asterisk, what happens? So it takes dynamic number of keyword arguments, right? So in config, you can actually add so many other things as well. Okay. Whenever I want to add a database, so now I am not specifying any database. Okay, so that's why I'm just using this double asterisk. Maybe in future I want to add a database to this particular dictionary. I can go ahead and do it. Okay, these are quarks. Yes, dynamic keyword arguments, quarks and args. Let me go ahead and create a connection. Let's see if connection is created successfully. Yes. So it created an object. Okay. It created an object. Now let us see the different operations we can do on this particular MySQL server. Let us first create a database. So in order to create a database, the way to do it is first you need to create a cursor. Okay. Once I have created a cursor, so cursor has multiple statements like execute, fetch, execute for executing SQL statements. So basically these are SQL, SQL databases, right? So you need to use SQL language. So SQL queries. So first I need to construct a SQL query. Let me construct a SQL query. So in order to create a database, I need to use create database. Let's say, okay, let me use any name. Demo. Okay. So once I create SQL query, the next important thing I need to do is cursor dot execute, and inside cursor dot execute, I need to mention this SQL query. Okay. So now it executed properly, and we didn't get any issue, right? So how do we see whether this database is created properly or not? Okay, the way to do it is, again, you need to use one more SQL query. So that is show databases. Okay, so here, if you see this query has nothing to give as an output, right? So the moment we ask Python to compile this SQL query and send it to MySQL and execute it, it is executing. Okay. So now we want to see whether it is executed properly, and for that we are executing one more SQL query that is nothing but show databases. Okay. So it has some output, right? Previous query has no output. Okay, but this query has some output. Let us see how to fetch the output from MySQL to Python environment. First, as usual, we need to execute SQL query. Then, in order to get the output, what do we need to do is we need to fetch. That's why we are using fetch all command. Okay. If you see, it has my XLR underscore demo in it. Okay. So it is showing all the different databases present in it. Previously, I have created some temp database and MySQL database. It is showing those databases as well. The thing is that, so we have created this XLR database in this MySQL server, and it created the database. Okay. So this is how we create the database. Let's say now we have the database. Let us create a connection using that database only. Okay. So previously we just created a connection on the entire server. Instead of that, okay, let us create the connection with only the database we have created just now. Let's see how do we do that. We have created already config file, right? So first of all, let us close this connection. Okay, now the connection is closed. Now let me update. Okay, database equal to XLR underscore demo. See, okay, it is assignment. Okay. Now, if you see my updated config has 4 keys and 4 values. It has user, it has password, it has host, it has database. Okay. Now let me create a new connection. How do we create a connection? we need to use dot ms dot connect. Okay, now the connection has been created with only this database. Okay, you see the beauty of these quarks now. So I don't need to specifically mention the keyword arguments every time, as it takes dynamic number of keyword arguments. Okay, just I can go ahead and change the config dictionary. So this is the dictionary, right? It has key value pairs. So whenever you create dynamic keyword arguments or quarks, okay, automatically that is interpreted in the form of a dictionary. So that's why you are taking use of the dictionary and you are updating it. Okay, now I have this cursor. The next thing I need to do is I need to create cursor. How do you create a cursor? Connection dot cursor. Okay, now I have created a cursor. Let me create a table. How do we create tables? Let's see. So to create a table, again, it's the same concept. First, you need to construct a SQL query. For multi-line text, I can use this, right? Let me create a table. So it uses the same SQL query language. Okay, you are taking control of MySQL for pandas, but all the concepts in general SQL language, query language, it remains same. So like creating a table, updating a table, deleting a record, altering a table, creating primary keys, foreign keys, everything. The entire concept remains same. The only thing is that you are taking control of this whole operation from Python. Okay, for that you are using some classes and objects. So that's it. Just remember this. Okay, so create table. So customer. Okay, let me create a simple table called customer table. Okay, so first I need to mention the table name. So create table name. Let me create some variables. Customer ID. Or can we connect database to Excel? I don't know what that is. Why we need cursor? So cursor, think of it is a class which compiles SQL queries, and it will execute on it will take the SQL query you are taking it here, and it compiles the SQL query and it will execute on the MySQL object you have created. Okay, it is a way of connecting to MySQL and executing all the statements you are building here. Okay, so customer ID, it's a int, right? Integer. So let me take it as a primary key. Next, let me create customer name. So customer name will be varchar, right? Varchar. Let me give the maximum length. Okay, so I'm creating a table customer which has customer ID, which is integer. I'm just creating it as a primary key. Okay, so then customer name, it is a character variable because it's a name, right? So it's a character variable. Then the next thing I need to do is cursor dot execute SQL query. Okay, it's got executed. Then how do we see whether the table, okay, created, so the table, okay, whether it is created properly or not. So how do we check that? So we can check that using show tables. Previously we have seen show databases, right? Likewise we have show tables, which will show what are the tables which got created. Okay, again, even though it is executed, if you want to get any output, the way to do it is HR. Raise resolution times okay. Sometimes connection issues will be there. You just need to create one more connection. Okay. So SQL query equal to show tables. So we have executed this particular SQL query, and so we have got the result. Now we can see that the customer table is created. Suppose, let's say I want to see the structure of the structure of the table. So how do we see it? Okay. So the way to see the structure is description. So DESC stands for description. Let me copy paste this. Okay. It is showing that it has two columns and data increment, and it has varchar. Okay. Other details which are not required. Okay. So now that we have created a table, so let's go ahead and see how do we alter the table. Alter the table. When I say altering the table, okay, how do we create columns? How do we drop columns? Okay, how do we change primary keys, etc. Now, again, I need to build a SQL query. The syntax will be alter table customer. Let's say I want to add a new variable, country. Okay, I have customer ID and I have customer name. I want to add a country name. The customer belongs. So how do we do it? Just again add the variable name you want. Let me give some length 100 only. Then again you need to execute. Sorry everyone, I think there is some network glitch. I've just joined back. Let me reshare my screen. Okay, yeah. Hope you are able to see my screen. Okay, yeah, let me continue our discussion. Okay, so now that we can see, right? So first, we created a table with only two columns. One is customer ID as an integer variable and customer name as a varchar. Okay, then what we have done is we have altered this table schema. So we have added one more variable, that is country. So we are creating it as a character variable which has a length of 100. Okay, so now that we can see that the table schema got updated. Now we have three variables in place. Okay, so what if we want to drop a variable? So the way to do it is alter table customer, the table customer, and let's first drop a variable. Let me drop country. Cursor dot execute query. Okay, query got executed, and let me see the structure of the table now. Okay, so you can see it has only two variables now. The variable we added before country, now we have deleted that. Okay, this is how. So there are multiple operations, and we will not discuss all of them. So the idea is to show you how do we take control of these SQL databases and update them from Python environment itself. Okay, so all the typical operations you can achieve in SQL. Okay, everything you can do it in using these operations. Okay, all the different alter operations. Okay, everything you can do. So let me show you now how do we insert values. Okay, now that we have seen how to create a table, how to alter the table schema, etc. The next important thing is how to populate the actual values in the table. Okay, let us go ahead and see insert values. Okay, we need to first build SQL query. Insert into customer. Okay, how many variables we have? We have customer underscore ID and customer underscore name. Okay, so these are the two variables we want to insert values values, and instead of directly creating, what we can do is we can mention the placeholders. So percentage s, think of it as a placeholder. Okay, then we can populate the values into the placeholder. So now let me create a tuple. So let me create 101 and customer underscore 101, let's say. Okay, then what we need to do is cursor dot execute. First argument will be my SQL query, and the second argument will be my tuple containing the values, okay, which I need to populate into the table. So this is how you need to execute. Let me, so once this is executed, we need to do commit so that the changes are executed. Then let me see if okay. So let me explain you. So first, I'm using the SQL query. So SQL query, I'm just inserting into customer table into two columns, and I'm specifying the values as a placeholders, percentages and percentages. These are placeholders for these two values. Okay, then I'm creating a tuple. Okay, so this tuple has again two elements. The first one corresponds to customer ID, and the second one corresponds to customer name. Okay, then I'm executing this particular statement, then I'm committing. Okay, so once I do all this sequence of steps, then the values are inserted. Okay, so I'm just trying to see how many rows are there in this particular cursor. Okay, so right now I have only one record, so it is saying that one observation. I mean, just to know whether this is executed properly or not. Okay, I'm just saying this. So here I am inserting only one row. Okay, so what if I want to create multiple rows? Okay, let's see how do we do that. Just a minute, let me connect that. Here the query remains same. So values, let me create a list of tuples. Previously, so we have created only one tuple, right? Now it will be list of tuples. Let me create 102 customer underscore 102 103 customer underscore 103. And now I have created 3 records. Okay, so let me see how to execute the same. So instead of execute, we have something called execute many. Okay, when you want to insert multiple values into the table, what you need to do is you need to use execute many. Okay, I have executed many, and the next important thing is you need to commit, right? Dot commit. Let's do this. Let me use the same thing to see. Okay, so first again I've used the same SQL query. This query will not change. Okay, the structure is not changing, right? So we are inserting the values into customer ID and customer name, and we are keeping the placeholders for the same. The structure will not change. The only thing that is changing is previously we have inserted only one record. Now if you want to insert multiple records, okay, so instead of so one tuple, we are creating list of tuples. Okay, let's see. Okay, it says 3 observations inserted. Okay, this is good. It inserted 3 observations, and I have previously 1 observation. And how do we see the actual observations which are present in that particular table? Let us see. There is a method for that. So again, first we need to build a SQL query. So what will be the query now? Select star from customer. Let me execute this. Okay, I'm just asking to give all the records from the customer. So this is the this particular operation has some output, right? So whenever you have some output, and if you want to fetch that, you need to use fetch all. But whenever you don't have any output, you are doing some operation. Okay, then you use execute or execute many. Okay, let me execute this. Yeah. So if you can see now, it has 101 customer underscore 101, 102, 103. Okay, all the 4 records present in the particular okay table, you are able to get it. Suppose let's say I got the data I want from the what do you say from the database, and once the database is once the table is in Python environment, the next thing what you need to do is you need to do all your Python operations, right? Okay, so if you want to preserve the table structure, so what you need to do is you need to convert that into a table. So let me show you how do we do this. Okay, df underscore list. So I am creating a df underscore list. Now what I will do is df equal to td dot data frame. Okay, underscore df underscore list. Okay, now I have the data frame which is present in Python environment. So basically previously I have this table in SQL database, and I fetched the table into Python and created as a data frame. So I can do all the data operations. Okay, let me first create customer ID. So this is how you can actually fetch the tables from MySQL and transform that into Pandas data frame. Okay, hope this is clear, everyone. Any questions still here? Okay, let me proceed then. If you don't have any questions, yeah, let's see few more operations. Now that we have created a table, inserted a values, okay, and also one thing, so you can use all the SQL operations. Let me show you a few of them. So suppose let's say order by, okay, you can use order by statement, or you can mention customer ID greater than 101. Okay, you can filter the records. You can do all the typical SQL operations you generally do on tables. Okay. Yeah. So the next important concept we'll discuss is how do we update the table. Let me show you. So the way to do it is you need to use the update statement. Customer set customer underscore name. I want to change customer name. Let's say ABC, where customer underscore ID equal to, let's say 102. So I want to change my customer name equal to some ABD value wherever the customer ID equal to 102. Let me go ahead. Okay, query got executed properly. Then how do we get the results? Let me use the same statement. Select star from the customer. Okay, now the value got changed. Okay, so we have updated a table based on some condition. So where condition, wherever the ID is equal to 102, we have changed the name to ABD. So it is getting reflected in the data. So previously what we have done is, so here in this case, so we just retrieved the results and we, okay, in the output we deleted some of the records, right? So what if we want to delete some of the records in the table itself? So let's see how do we do that. Okay, first again we need to build the SQL query. me use in a single statement only. Anyway, it's a small statement, right? So delete from customer where ID, it's customer ID, right? Customer underscore ID equal to, so let's say I want to delete 102. Let me execute this. Okay, so it executed without any issues. Let me see the number of records. Okay, now we can see it has only 101, 103, and 104. Okay, and this is how you can actually execute the delete operations. Okay, so if you see the entire structure remains same, so it will not change. So only thing that is changing is, well, SQL query. So essentially, what does that mean? You need to have the, okay, SQL operations. Then once you know what SQL operation you need to execute, you just need to use that in SQL query and execute and get the results using fetch all. Okay. Hope this is clear, everyone. You just need to remember only three important things. One is how to write a SQL query. Then you just need to remember that this particular thing, that is cursor.execute and cursor.hr. So once it is, so only thing that is important here is it gives in the form of list of tuples, and you also need to insert in the form of tuples, list of tuples, and result also you will get in the form of tuples. Okay, so once you get those tuples, you can simply create the data frame you want and do all those operations. Okay, hope this is clear, everyone. Okay, yeah, what we'll do is we'll take a break and we'll continue our discussion. Yeah. Okay, yeah, let's continue our discussion. Let me see if I covered all the operations. What are the pending things? Let me check. Okay, we have seen alter, we have seen delete, we have seen some columns. Okay, let us see how do we take a pandas a data frame and okay, upload that to existing table. Okay, let us see that. That will be useful sometimes. First, let me close the connection. Okay, connection is closed. Let me start fresh. Okay, pandas table to MySQL table. Okay, so first, let me import one pandas table. Let me take the bank data set we have. Bank data equal to p dot data underscore csv. Okay, I have this data. Let me take few variables and okay, for just for simplicity. Otherwise, okay. First thing we need to do is, if you remember, it only takes okay list of tuples. Okay. So how do we create list of tuples? Bank data underscore list of tuples. Bank underscore data dot. So there is one method called iter tuples, which is present in a data frame, pandas data frame. What you need to do is you just need to mention the iter tuples. Just a minute. Let's do. So let me see. Not if you see, I got all the tuples. Next thing, what do I need to do is, okay, I have the list of tuples now. I need to have the list of the columns as well. Okay, just for simplicity, let me take only few columns for this exercise. Let me take only these variables. See, now it has only, just for simplicity, I have taken only 4 variables. So one is age, unemployed, married. So that is job, marital status, and education. Okay. Now I have the list of the tuples. So what is the first thing we need to do? We need to first create the structure. Okay, how do we create the structure? That is using create table command, right? Okay, create table bank underscore data. The first one is age. It is an integer variable. Next one is job. So job is varchar 255. That's it. Next one is marital varchar 255. Then the final variable education, that is also varchar. Create table. Did I create the connection? Let me check. I closed the connection, right? Let me recreate the connection again. Config, it has all the required things. Connection. Okay, now the connection is there. Then I need to create cursor. First, I need to create the connection. Then I need to create the cursor. Okay, now I have the required things in place. Then I'll execute cursor. Okay, let me see if it is executed properly or not. So how to check that? Description of bank underscore data. Okay. Cursor dot execute SQL query. This has some output. What do I need to do? I need to fetch all. Sorry, okay. It created age, job, marital status, and education. Now, the next important thing I need to do is I need to insert values. How do I insert values? Let's use this method. First, I need to insert into bank underscore data. And what are the 4 variables I have age, I have job, I have marital status, and education. Okay, I have four values, so I have created four placeholders for that. Now instead of these values, okay, let me zoom in. Is it clear now? Hope this is clear now. Okay. I have created a bank data list, right? So let me use that. Okay, I'm inserting into bank data, age, job, marital status, and values. I have four placeholders, and I'm using SQL query and the bank data. Not all parameters are used in the SQL statement. One, two, three, four, five. So why I'm getting five? Let me check. One, two, three, four. One, two, three. There is some issue with bank data. Let me check that. Okay. Let me check. I have taken only 10 records just for checking out. Some reason I am getting unnecessary records, so that's why I'm getting this issue. So I have these 10 records. Let me see. These are 30 unemployed, married, and primary. This is fine. After that, I should get 33 ideally. Okay, sorry, my bad. I got, instead of bank data sample, I'm using the entire data here. So that's why I'm getting issue. Okay, now I understood. Okay, so 30 unemployed, married, and primary, 33 services, married, and secondary. Okay, now I have the list, clear list in place. Let me remove this. Okay, sample. Okay, Now I have the clear. Okay, 4,521 observations inserted. So whenever the structure, so whenever we are creating the tables, we need to make sure that the data we are passing, it is in the same schema of whatever we have created for the table. Okay. Now let me see if I've created it properly or not. So the way to do it is I can build a SQL query. Like I said, I can use all the select, okay, star from bank underscore data limit 10 records. Dot execute SQL query cursor dot as I limited my data to only 10 records. I got the 10 records. Sorry. Okay. Let me not limit my data into 10 and let me recreate the data frame again. Okay. So this is how, so we have inserted the complete table. Okay. If you see the sequence of steps, it's the same thing. First, we need to create the tabular structure, and instead of directly, okay, passing as passing these values manually, what we have done is first we created a list of tuples from a data frame. So this is the data frame we had. Okay, bank data of age, job, material, and education. So we have taken this data frame and we converted that into a list of tuples. The way to do it is you can use okay, dot iter tuples. It takes it iterates through the data frame and it creates one particular observation as one tuple. Okay. So what we are doing is we are ignoring the index and we are ignoring the names. Okay. So here, if you can see, it is creating a tuple of a list of all the tuples. Once we have this list ready, then the process remains same. So we just need to execute that using cursor.execute, and you can use cursor.fetch all to get the results. Okay, hope this is clear, everyone. So this is the main important topic. I mean, when it comes to the SQL operations, so we can anyways, okay, we can master once we learn SQL, okay, query language. But the main objective of this particular session is to how do we interact. So how do we interact okay, with the SQL database environment, and how do we send the data to SQL and get the data from SQL? So that is the main objective of this session. So, okay. So is the concept clear? So how do we create tables and how do we get the tables? Everyone? Okay. So one important thing, um, so let me show you that as well. Whenever, okay, whenever we are executing the statements, it's always good to include the error handling part as well. So we are just importing errors from MySQL connector. Let me recreate the example and let me show you how do we handle errors. Okay, let me show you that. We have anyway discussed this in previous classes. So let me create, execute. I'm not getting it. So sir, there is no option to apply. Is that question for me? Anyway, okay, execute query. So zoom in again. Okay, so I increased the size. Hope this is clear. So basically, so we are taking connection and query. Let me take cursor instead of, let me increase more. Okay, if I increase more, it will be very odd. Okay, this is the maximum we can increase. It takes, so try except block. If you remember, first it tries the block of the code we write, and in except block, whatever so we mention as exceptions, those will be, I mean errors, it will be handled. We need to first execute the query and let me take connection as well, so that once we do something, we need to commit. Then accept whatever error we have imported as error. Okay, so now I have created. Let me recreate the example. Previously we got some error, right? So let me recreate that example and let's see how it formats the error. Instead of sample, I'm taking the entire data. Now let me take the SQL query. Okay, now that I have SQL query, let me try to. So okay, I have defined a query. Then the thing is that I need to execute query. So what is the cursor? What is the cursor name? It's only cursor. Then connection. Then SQL underscore query. Okay. So without this, also let me show you. So how the error will be there. So execute. Okay, this is how we got this error, right? It captured the actual error part. Okay, from the error we got. And whatever the operations we can do here, so you can mention that also. So it is always recommended that whenever you are dealing with okay these things, you need to always use try except. Okay, exception handling you need to always incorporate as a part of your code. Okay, hope this is clear, everyone. I think okay, we covered today's topic. If you have any questions, let me know. Okay, let me check if I missed any important topic. Yes, I think we covered everything. So tomorrow we'll start with Django. Django. So we'll discuss on Django framework, overview, environment, how do we create apps, application, REST APIs, etc. Today we'll discuss about frameworks. I mean, tomorrow we'll discuss about frameworks. Let me know if you have any questions on today's session. So we'll discuss that. It's only 15 minutes. I don't want to start a new topic today. Everyone, let me know if you have any questions. I'll explain. So please explain how to connect SQL through cloud and other things. Okay, so cloud, let me show you the concept again. So first thing you need to do is, um, just go to console.cloud.google.com. Okay, so once you go to console.cloud.google.com, okay, what happens is there is something called free trial. I mean, even if you want to, even if you want to set up a commercial thing, that is absolutely fine. But the thing is, so far, whenever you are logging in for the first time, the GCP will give you $300 credit. Okay, so you can use that to. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, Kiran. Yeah, we can join. We can perform join operations. Yes, yes, yes. I mean, think of this is the same SQL. Okay, paradigm. Okay. Only thing is that so we are just taking the control from the Python. Okay. Think of previously you used to execute them directly on MySQL, but right now what you are doing is you are using the Python interface to perform all those operations. So whatever operations you can do on a typical MySQL databases and tables, you can do all those operations here. So if you can see ultimately, so once you go inside SQL query, okay, it is the same query language. Okay, it is not changing. So this query language, SQL query language, okay, corresponds to MySQL. Maybe if it is Teradata, like otherwise, let's say if it is SQL Server, whatever changes that will be there, those you need to mention. Suppose let's say in some SQL databases you can use limit. In some SQL servers you need to use top rate, select top 100 records, something like that. So all those changes corresponds to the database you are interacting with or server you are interacting with. Ultimately, once so this is like an interface. Once the query is query is constructed, the control will be passed to the actual server only, right? So Python is actually acting as an interface. Okay, so from Python you are interacting with that, but ultimately whatever queries you need to develop, everything depends on the MySQL server. Okay, so to answer your question, yes, we can do all the join operations. So yes, we can do. Okay, going back to this, so like I said, first what you need to do is, okay, so you can go to this instance space and you can click on create instance. Once you click on create instance, so these are the three different SQL servers GCP is providing you. You can use any of them. Either you can use SQL Server or PostgreSQL or MySQL. So you can click on MySQL and you can name some instance ID. Let's say I want to name demo2 and I'll set up some password. Okay, then multiple zones. Just click on create instance. In a single step, instance will be created. So once this particular instance is created, so then what you need to do is you need to just go to connections. Anyway, I think it is still taking time, but no problem. So once this is created, so you just need to click on add network. And so it is nothing but you are adding the list of IP addresses from which you can connect to this particular database. Okay, here you just need to mention 0.0.0 or otherwise whatever the IP you have. Okay, so that way once that is done, so everything all other things remain same. Okay, so your server is created and it has some IP address. Suppose let's say if it is a local, then what you need to mention is localhost. Okay, so if you remember our code, second, let me open the code. So where is this? Instead of host, instead of IP address here, you can mention localhost. Okay, if you mention localhost, so what happens is whenever you have a MySQL installation in the local system, so then you can mention localhost here. Okay, right now we are interacting with cloud instance of this SQL server. That's why we are mentioning IP. Otherwise, it will be localhost. So what if you want to install MySQL server in your local host, just search for MySQL server in Google and download and install. Okay. Screen not visible. One second, let me see what is the issue. Okay, where is this? It will be visible now. I think there is some glitch. Yeah, just wait for a minute. I think I'm resharing my screen. It should be visible now. Yes. Okay, like I said, here local host for local installation. Okay, here in place of this IP address, you can mention local host. So when you install MySQL server in your laptop or system, okay, here we are interacting with cloud version of MySQL. So that's why we are mentioning IP address. So rest all, rest all operations remain same, whether it is local installation or cloud installation, it doesn't matter. Once you initialize a connection with that particular database, rest all things will remain same. Okay. So like I said, first you need to connect using this configuration file, or you can directly mention that as a keyword arguments. Okay. Then you can just create a cursor and you can use queries to execute. So if you see, it will be hardly 4 or 5 different methods we need to remember. One thing is, okay, you need to create a connection, then you need to create a cursor. So once you create a cursor, you can use the cursor to execute the statements. Okay, so this is execute, and once the execution is done, if you want to retrieve the results, then you can use fetch. So just these 3-4 things you need to remember. Otherwise, all other things will remain same, right? So ultimately, in SQL query, what you are writing, it affects your output. But if you just think of this total process from Python perspective, it is hardly 4 or 5 statements, right? Ultimately, the one which is getting changed is SQL query. Otherwise, you are just creating a connection, creating a cursor, executing it, and fetching the results. So that's it, right? So whatever we discussed in this complete class, so everything is related to SQL query. Ultimately, it is SQL query language, right? Okay. Hope this is clear, everyone. Okay, one thing you need to understand is, so it takes only tuples. So that is one more important thing. So how do we create tuples? So For that, we what we have done is we have converted a data frame to tuples, etc. But ultimately, okay, so this is how we interact with tables, and we insert data into it, and we extract the data from that. So this is how we do it. Okay. Okay, then let's connect tomorrow and continue our discussion. Not continue, we'll start a new thread tomorrow. That is, we'll discuss about Django frameworks, how do we create the backend environment for these apps and all, how do we interact with REST APIs, etc. Today, let's discuss about that. And tomorrow, let's discuss about that. Okay. So thanks a lot, everyone.